Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite bearded man, the one, the only, Bob Bay. I know you are so excited to see that a podcast has popped up on your feed on a Friday. Well, this is what I like to call a bonus episode, as I was recently on Cam Meekins Show, brand new podcast by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Cam Meekins. He's originally a recording artist. That's how he got into the creative game, and most recently just launched a podcast. I'm very, very excited to be on his show. I was number 7, lucky number 7, guest number 7. And so I thought the conversation was great, and in case you guys and gals didn't see me sharing it out, I wanted to share it to the podcast feed for you guys and gals to check it out. So please enjoy this podcast. If you really do enjoy the conversation, I highly suggest you go check out Cam's new show called Cam Meekins Show. Cam's new show, Cam Meekins Show. You see what I did there? I'm so smart. I'm so just the bearded man. Ha, 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 ha. All right, enough of me talking. Enjoy the podcast. Enjoy. Do it.
It's the Cam Meekins Show. It's your boy Cam Meekins. I got Bob A in here, host of It's the Bearded Man podcast. My good friend Bob A. What's up, bro?
Cam, how we doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm really excited to talk to you because, as some people watching might know, we've done some podcasts in the past.
Yep.
And I just enjoy having conversations with you, man.
I appreciate it, man. I'm a big fan of anybody coming out of Massachusetts, trying to grind, trying to make it, out in LA. And even I was just talking to my roommate before we jumped on this earlier, and he's like, "Oh, what do you got planned up for the rest of the day?" I said, "I'm doing a podcast with my buddy Cam Meekins," and he's like, "Cam Meekins?" Like, I know that dude. I've been following that dude since like 2010, 2011 from way back in like the blog era days, and so I thought it was pretty funny because I live with new roommates. I just moved about 10 days ago. So this is like a whole new atmosphere. So it's pretty funny, but much respect for you. And I'm so stoked to jump on this as early as you are in your podcast career, because I think you're going to crush it.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate that. Well, you were one of the people who really inspired me to get going on this grind. I mean, for those watching that don't know, so how would you describe what you do, man? I know you host your podcast. You're a big content creator, social media. How do you describe yourself to people?
Yeah, that's great. I really just describe myself as somebody who's purely just trying to document his life on the day-to-day of being my most authentic, vulnerable self while trying to just crush goals and live literally like the best life I could ever imagine. And it's kind of surreal, actually, now I think about it. When we did the podcast, at this point, it must have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, maybe even 3.
Yeah, it might even be 3, honestly. So just to flip in comparison, it's like that headspace of where I was at. I was living in Sun Valley, California. I was a host of Purpose in the Youth podcast. I was driving Uber full time. There was so much like trying to figure out, who am I? What do I want to do with my life? Fast forward to now and asking me that question, it's like, oh, I know who I am. I'm Bobby Hobart. I'm the bearded man. I'm Bob A. I'm the host of It's the Bearded Man podcast. I document conversations. I interview people, but I'm also super interested in like self-development and helping people like reach their ultimate potential. I'm also the podcast performance manager for a company called Liquid IV, where I do media buying for the podcast space. So it's like, how is it that I went from 2016 living in Boston, starting this podcast after graduating college, to then now I'm working full-time in the podcast media buying space. I still podcast to this day, but it's like, it's just crazy to think about just that growth alone. And so that's what I'm here to do, man. I'm just here to keep pushing out great energy, keep being my most authentic self, and honestly, just try to inspire others to like do the thing they've always wanted to do, but hold back from doing. And that's what I feel like is my purpose, is just like get people off their ass, show them the path, or at least give them some tips and advice of how they can do it, and just become the greatest version of myself every single day.
I love that. How did that come about for you? Like, I mean, that's quite a calling, I feel like, I mean, you talk about purpose a lot and shit like that. Those themes are very apparent in your life, but man, I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit in the world, especially right now. Totally. How do you have that energy all the time?
Man, it's just been, you're seeing and hearing the product of 4+ years of just pure dedication to self-development, listening to a lot of podcasts, reading a lot of books, checking myself, asking myself, like, is this the right path? Do I enjoy what I'm doing? Do I like what I'm doing with my free time? Do I like the people I'm surrounded by? Do I wake up every day and I feel fulfilled? Like, where's my headspace at? Should I meditate more? Like, you're really just catching the product of somebody who just went head down and wanted to just figure out, what does this passion look like? What does this purpose look like? And yeah, that's like truly the beauty that I have to check myself every single day. And I remind myself, when I literally, like, this sounds kind of crazy, but I truthfully like do this. Like, I wake up in the morning, and when I put my 2 feet on the ground, I don't stand up immediately. And I fortunately have a mirror across from my bed. And I literally have to say to myself out loud, like, this sounds legit crazy, but I do it. Like, I'm grateful to be alive today. I'm grateful to have financial stability. I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the next 24 hours ahead of me. I'm grateful for, like, all the challenges of my past and, like, what it's taken me to become who I am today. And I guess, like, it's just been such a long, it feels, when you're in it, it feels long. But when I look back on it, 4 years, as you can probably relate, it's just been a game of trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, testing and trying content ideas, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, podcast platforms. One show switches over to another. If I had to really simplify it, it's just you're catching me at a point in my life where I finally have a lot of clarity in the path that I need to go on. But I wouldn't have gotten to this path if I didn't throw a bunch of shit at the wall, see what stuck, see what I enjoyed, see what I wasn't great at. And then once I found the things that stuck, I kept doing it, which was really just this. It's podcasts. It's meeting people like yourself who are super passionate, and just always being curious and trying to understand the why. Even though I know I ain't getting the booth. I ain't spitting bars anytime soon, but I want to understand why Cam does it. I want to understand why the next person started their business. Just naturally curious and, pushing myself to try things that interest me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that. I had the same kind of motivation starting this show. I like talking to people and just coming up with common themes and being introspective in a way that can make me feel like I'm moving forward in my development in my brain and just thinking about stuff with a new perspective. And I think long form conversations are one of the only ways to achieve that. But yeah, I mean, I'm always so impressed by your attitude towards, just your life, your career, your motivation. You're one of those dudes that's getting up early, just, all these things that all of us kind of want to do. But most of us struggle with implementing on a day-to-day. And so I'm just trying to figure out, like, walk me back to that initial starting point, or have you always been that motivated person your whole entire life, or did that come from some event that changed your perspective? How did that process that you've been on for 4 or 5 years in your, adult development, how did that start?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many moments when I think back to childhood and, middle school, high school years. I think there's all these little moments that stemmed up for that moment of me graduating college and having that confidence to take a leap and to not get a corporate job, even though 99% of my graduating class got a job after graduating. I was literally part of the 1% that didn't.
Yeah.
So there is no secret sauce. There is no, I'm special and I have something that you don't have, or anybody that's listening that they don't have. We all have a belief, or we all have the ability to honestly accomplish any amount of dream that we've ever imagined. Like, I really genuinely believe it. The only difference from those that succeed and those that don't, the ones that succeed just never stop, and they continuously, brick by brick, day by day, they just get after it. They do what they have to do. I think there was a lot of moments looking back on my childhood that led me up to the moment where graduating college and having the confidence to start a podcast, even though I had no creative background. A couple moments that jumped to my mind is I started working at the age of 12. My parents provided me everything I could ever ask for: a roof over my head, food on the table. If I wanted to, I tried playing guitar. My parents bought me a guitar. I took lessons. They provided me more than I could have ever asked for. But, oh, Mom and Dad, I want to buy this new video game, and I want to buy the next Call of Duty that comes out 2 weeks later. It's like, we'll buy you one every couple months, but the rest, you're going to have to work for it. So I started working at the age of 12, learning how to make money at a young age, outside, outdoors, in the hot sun, that was incredibly important. I think back to maybe high school years, being part of organizations where after school we would go to local charity or local organization and give back, and starting to understand like what it feels like to be of service and do something that's not just about you. Whether it was in like maybe college years, just being exposed to people really that were coming from all different parts of the world. I went to Bentley University right in Waltham, Mass. And
shout out.
It's just like, man, I met people from countries that I, had only seen on a map. I never met somebody that was from Egypt or from Germany. It was like, what the, like, so then I'm starting to pull from all these, lessons and stories and seeing kids drive to the campus with more expensive cars than the actual professors. I'm like, wait, this is so new to me. I don't understand. Where is this money coming from? Like, so it's really just been all these little lessons along the way. And I think just moments that stemmed up to that moment when I was graduating, it was like, yo, this is now or never. And I got to give credit to my parents. They definitely were always instilling in me, like, no matter what you do with your life, we'll always be here to support you. So that was a huge relief when I was graduating college, telling them like, hey, I'm 6 figures in debt, don't really want to get a job. Even though I went to a quote unquote top business school of the Northeast, thinking about driving Uber full time and starting a podcast. Like, what do you guys think about that? There was no like hesitation. They were like, this is great. If that's what you want to do, great. But when your college loans kick in and when your rent comes in every month in Boston, that's on you. So
yeah,
we'll cheer you on, but it's on you to figure that out. And I do want to say the last thing that I would credit to giving me that like inspiration or to give me the confidence to take a leap would be honestly just all the kids that I grew up with in Western Mass. I was surrounded by people that were making music. Producers, artists. I had a buddy that was making clothes. I had a buddy that was super passionate about like photography. So I think just seeing these guys, even though they were still early on in their careers, just seeing them have the confidence to be the oddballs out or like, the ones that are doing something different and they're actually like trying to create, just seeing that gave me the confidence of like, if these guys are doing it, I can do it. And if I want to start a podcast on passionate people, this is my test group. This is where we start and we see where the road takes us from there.
Yeah, that's inspiring, man. I mean, to go into the situation just starting from scratch and also even having the college, the student loans, to figure that out, not just creatively for the podcast, but financially how to survive is a really big feat that I think, freezes people from going and trying these things. I think your point about the influence of parents and just like your upbringing and stuff like that is super key. I don't think that I would be doing what I'm doing if it weren't for the fact that both my parents were very supportive in the sense of not like, we're going to help you do this, but if you want to do something, if you want to pursue music, because I was never good in school. I was always just trying to do music. They weren't of the mindset of you need to stop music and focus on school. They were like, okay, you clearly have a passion for music, lean into that. They supported that as long as I was doing something productive in the real world sense, not just in the school sense, because school didn't blend with my personality when I was growing up. But doing music and pursuing that as a kind of business, even when I was 16, 17 years old, they saw that I was serious about that. And they let me do that. They let me go to New York when I was 17 years old. And I had, crazy experiences when I was like 16, 17 years old because, I started getting relatively successful in music when I was still in high school. And so I would go to New York when I was a junior in high school, and I was linking up with these dudes who like worked for, different management companies and, industry dudes that I thought were just like the most important dudes in the game when I was 16, 17 years old. I didn't know anything about the music industry. And so my first kind of foot in the door in the music industry world was I would go out to New York, meet up with these random people that I had met through Chris Webby, who I like got connected to because he did a show in Boston. So I met him, did a song with him. Then I met some other people, and it was just a real genuine, actual physical networking situation. I was 17, going out to New York, staying there for the weekend, telling my parents, oh, I'm going to stay at my sister's house. But really I'd end up, 2 hours outside the city at some random house. People are smoking weed, doing all this crazy shit. And like, hanging out with other artists that are all in their like 20s and everything like that. And those experiences, just led to my career actually being a real thing. And, I think obviously some of that stuff is like, a little crazy, and, no one really wants to like let their 17-year-old kid go do that because it's not necessarily like the best idea, but it worked out for me. And I always had a good head on my shoulders, even in those situations. And I don't think I would have been able to do that if it weren't for the support of my family around me, knowing, hey, he's serious about this. Let's treat him like an adult and let him follow that. And the same thing with you, having the support from the people that you love to say, okay, yeah, we support you, do your thing, but we're not going to be there when your rent is due. That's the right kind of support. It's the support to say, you can do it, but I'm not going to bail you out.
Yeah.
Because when you start bailing people out, you're not achieving anything there.
No.
You
need your back to be against the wall. And it's exactly what you just said, leaning into it. That is the utmost key to my story, to your story, to anybody's story, right? You lean into the situation you're in. The fact that I had to drive Uber for 19,000, 2 total rides. I got this shit tatted on the back of my arm as a reminder, okay? 19,002, okay? In it, I'm like, I can't even imagine the day that I'm not going to be driving Uber, right? That's all I could think about. Can't wait for the day I know it'll come. Looking back on it, how much appreciation that built for me to be where I am today. How much gratitude for the 19,002 people that I met, for the amount of fire that it put under my ass, because I had to be so cautious of the $20 that I would spend going to a club, or if I wanted to like step outside of working and actually go live my life in LA. You learn to appreciate all of like your successes so much more. It forces you to make it work with literally nothing. I mean, you came through the bedroom studio. Like, I was running this operation out of my bedroom. I painted a wall. I put up a neon sign. I had 2 lights. Like, most people that were seeing the content probably didn't even realize that it was being shot in a bedroom, unless they really followed me on IG, because I would flex. Dude, because of Gary Vee, he was always like, you got to be authentic. You got to show people the real shit. I'd be like, yo, I'm cooking up at the bedroom. There's my bed. There's the desk. Oh, shit. Like, it's just all part of the, you know what it is? It's all part of the story too. When you come from, my story's so just me. Like, I know there are so many more people out there that come from environments and situations that I can never even imagine being. But for my little bearded man life, now the fact that I can, for the rest of my life, be like, yo, I drove 19,002 rides to get me to where I am today. Like, I'm paying off my college loans from Uber, or like, I did what I needed to do to get me through that phase. Like, it shows me the work. It shows work ethic. It shows grit. It makes me be more financially smart with my money. Like, if you don't go through tough times or whatever is relative to your life, like if you don't really learn work ethic, which is something that I have through my blood and that you can't teach, it's going to hurt you for the rest of your life. And so I think it's exactly that. You had the support system. And also too, Cam, bro, the fact that you were hitting success at 16, 17, man, if I had a hat, I would tip it to you, because I can't even imagine, like, my mind at 16, 17, I would not have been ready for that. If I was podcasting, I would not be ready for that type of success. Or even now, like, to me, it's like the longer it takes me to actually, quote unquote, blow up or really like hit some big strides and downloads, I'm just getting better and better. So I'm like, cool, keep sleeping on me. The most slept on podcast in the world. Like, I'm just getting better. So props to you, man, for really like getting after it at a young age. Cause that's, I mean, you've been in the game for a decade at this point. You're still young as hell, man. I
know it is really crazy when I look back at it, and I realize I've actually been releasing music professionally for over 10 years, 11 years. And those first 2 years, I was literally still in high school and basically figuring out how to just do the bare minimum to continue to go through high school and still be able to graduate. But I knew that I was going to go right into doing what I'm doing, and ended up signing a record deal right as I was finishing high school with a major label, which like really solidified it. But even before I knew that that was going to happen, I knew that I was just going to pursue all this stuff. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. It's been a wild ride, but you know, I got motivated to lean in like you were talking about because I had a perspective shift with the whole jet ski accident thing, which I've talked about a million times. I talked about it, I think, probably on your podcast, and
definitely
most people who know my story know that story. But when you get close to death, when you understand the fragility of life, when you really get a chance to look objectively at the fact that we're only here for a short amount of time, and that time could be up any day, you really start to appreciate every single day and realize what you love, and there's a drive inside you that wants to just lean into that. And I was sitting in my room one day, just, you know, kind of a mess from the whole situation because I was 15 years old, lost my spleen in this accident, had emergency surgery, almost bled to death, really traumatic situation. My family wasn't there because I was on vacation with another family, and then they had to leave. And so I was kind of on my own in this whole like situation for a few days. And I came back and I recovered from that. And it was kind of a traumatic experience. So I was, you know, I think looking back on it now, I think it was kind of PTSD. And so I was sitting in my room and I just had this realization where I was like, I can let this one event define the rest of my life and think about it every single day and go through my life kind of, you know, worrying about different things. And I had certain health concerns because once I lost my spleen, it became this, is something going to be wrong with my body, with my immune system, because I don't have a spleen anymore. And when you first lose your spleen, you have to be on antibiotics for 2 years to make sure that you don't get any infections and all this crazy shit that as a 15-year-old, it was tough for me to like think about. And I was really having a tough time with it for the first couple months. And I sat there and I was like, I could let this be the thing that defines me, or I can take the experience and let it remind me every single day that I could die any day. I have to enjoy my life and do what I want to do. And so that really did motivate me to get more into music, and it motivated me to actually start rapping because I was writing raps, but I told people I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to produce for other people. So my friend Jay Viz, I was producing a bunch of stuff for him and a bunch of other people at my school that were all into rapping. And we're in the studio and he's like, yo, you hop on this verse. And so I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And so I put this verse on this random song, and I was like, this is the best feeling ever. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I really don't think that I would have been there mentally to have the confidence to do it, to have the confidence to not listen when people tell me that's crazy. You know, you can't do that, whatever. White kid from the suburbs, rapping doesn't make sense. You know, all of these different like hurdles along the way of my life and my career, I didn't think about them. And I never think about them to this day. When people tell me this podcast isn't going to work or whatever, I don't care about any of that stuff. Because it's just about doing the things that you enjoy, and success and revenue or whatever will come if you're really doing it in that way.
Yeah.
And I saw that firsthand when I was young. I just made the music and enjoyed it and loved it and put it out, and things started to kind of take off. And I was like, okay, now I see this as an opportunity to like really focus and turn it into a business. And it was just this one thing after another amazing, you know, situation that happened. But I really truly believe that it was because of that mentality shift that I had, that I was able to get there in the first place. You know,
it's so It's just so crazy to actually, we did talk about this on the podcast, but yeah, 3 years ago, it's just kind of crazy how quick time flies by. But it's just an example that even in those darkest times, or in the moments where literally you're potentially like this was life or death, that it ends up blossoming into it potentially could have been one of the best moments of your life to lead you down the path of music, to give you the confidence to actually throw yourself out there and do it, to change your perspective on what does my life actually look like now that I know that it could be taken away, in a snap of a finger. So that's what I'm saying, man. It's like, it really is at the end of the day, all about, you can wear two lenses throughout your life. You can have this positive lens that you continuously try to seek, not this is happening to me, this is happening for me, and constantly just ask yourself, how is this working to me? How is this working for me? Or you can have that pessimistic, which is just never going to get you anywhere good. It's going to hold you back from actually making forward progress. And you're always going to be stuck because you're just so caught up in almost like assessing or reassessing like what had happened. So it's really surreal to hear it again, man, because like I said, I know we talked about it on the first podcast, but it's beautiful that something so close to literally taking your life ended up becoming one of the greatest moments that gave you the confidence to move forward. And anybody that's, and maybe there hasn't, but anybody that even potentially goes, yo, Cam, is this podcast, it's not going to work. Those are the people that I love people like that, because it's like, you are so caught up in watching me and consuming my content, right, and formalizing an opinion and then spitting it back out. You're coming at me when it's like, what are you doing? And I had somebody on a podcast recently, a couple months ago, tell me this. I forget who he quoted this from, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you're not in the arena with me, I don't want to hear a peep. If you're not out there throwing yourself out there, especially if we're just talking like music or podcast space, you're essentially signing up to be vulnerable, share your voice.
Absolutely.
Everything. Yeah. If you're not doing the same, I don't want to hear your opinion. Unless it's good. If it's good, all day. Get me fired up. I want it. But if it's negative, take that shit, put it in your back pocket, and keep it moving, because I ain't got time to listen to it.
No, so, I feel you.
Podcast is going to be big. So anybody that's sleeping on
love,
Cam,
bro.
just wait.
That's love. And I actually haven't heard that comment. But
cut this. And then when the first one rolls in,
people have been showing love. People have been showing love to the podcast, but there's always haters, and there's been people who are saying like, "Oh, that's not a good idea," my whole entire life. But I after that whole situation, that mentality shift, the jet ski thing, whatever, I've never cared about a negative comment, a negative thought, whether it was a teacher or a principal or a fan or a misguided fan or, just someone who was just looking and, anyone that's saying anything negative. Well, first of all, I just don't have the ability to like care about it after that perspective shift that I had when I was younger. And before that, I would have cared about it for sure. And I'm definitely still very self-conscious about a lot of things in my life, but certain things like that, you realize they're just not worth your time to worry about.
No.
And I really credit that to my ability to keep doing stuff, keep making music, keep creating new projects, and keep moving forward. Because if I didn't have that ability to turn that off and not really care about those type of voices, I think it'd be harder for sure. And I think that probably a lot of people who do this type of stuff have to deal with that one way or another. And it's, I think it affects some people more than others too.
Yeah.
And I think that's why there's a lot of substance abuse in creative and vulnerable industries where you're out there in the public eye, because you're constantly being ridiculed. You're constantly being talked about. And that's hard for a lot of people to accept, So I really do believe that probably leads to a lot of the drug use and alcohol use that we see in kind of all the like kind of rock star people and all this type of stuff. And probably some of the predispositions that those type of people will have in their life that drive them to be musicians or anything like that too. That probably plays a factor as well. But yeah, I just try and tune that out, and haven't had too tough of a time doing that, which I really am glad, because I think that you can get caught up in that type of stuff.
It's a massive strength.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's been a long process, you know. You kind of learn those skills every single day, and you kind of have to continue to work them out too. It's a muscle.
Two things that jump to my mind is, one, confidence comes from repeated action. I said in the podcast I did with a videographer by the name of Matt Como. It's exactly this is what it is. You have confidently done this over and over for an extended period of time. So now it's literally a habit at this point for you. You have to do it. You have to fulfill that creative itch. And then second thing, when it comes to like substance abuse, one of the greatest things that I ever got introduced to, and I just did a podcast about it earlier this morning, is meditation. And that single-handedly getting into meditation has redirected my entire life in the sense that I've gotten so much better at not attaching myself to thoughts, whether negative or positive, whether it's, holy shit, man, I'm like blowing up. I got this person on the podcast. Oh, I'm so cool. I don't let that ego drive. And then to the other side where it's like, am I a good podcaster? Like, do people care what the bearded man has to say? Like, I only have 10 downloads on this episode. Like, is this really the right path? Nope. Don't attach myself to that thought. Let it keep moving. And it helps with the like negative feedback, or being mindful of like, am I drinking this beer because I need to feel an edge and I need to boost up confidence? Or should I sit in my thoughts and honestly ask myself and try to re-engineer, why am I feeling this way? Why am I not feeling happy? Why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling insecure? Meditation's been a game changer for me, to the point where I live a much more sober life than I did a couple of years ago, in the sense that like I probably like I had a White Claw this weekend, and before that I literally a single White Claw, and then before that a couple of weeks ago maybe when I was home for Christmas. Like now I want to be fully present without anything in my body other than caffeine and like who I am. And that's been a huge shift for me in the last even just 6 months of cutting out booze.
Dude, I've been trying to do this mindfulness practice on this podcast episode, because one of the things I noticed rolling back the tapes of my podcasts is that I would move a lot. And, you know, I've never, like, obviously I do music. I've never like done the on camera thing all the time. So I haven't really gotten that like media training or anything like that. Like, you know, I don't really necessarily know how to be on camera like that. And so one of the things I thought about before this episode was like, I'm really going to try and really sit still with my thoughts and, sit up straight, because I would slouch and just kind of like hang out and talk to people like this. But I'm trying to sit up straight and be present in this moment while we're talking. And I feel like it's made me so much more engaged in the conversation, because my body is still and my mind is relatively still too. And
you're doing great.
Yeah, no, it's just funny that you brought that up, because I was, I think that's a mindful thing. But what does meditation look like for you?
Every day, 20 minutes every morning.
And what do? You just sit and breathe, focus on your breath, or what kind of meditation do you do?
Yeah, so I use an app called Headspace. Funny enough, today I just hit 100 days straight, which has been incredible. For the most part, it's been a daily routine for me for the last couple of years, but if it was like on the weekend, I kind of would just let it slip, or it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But now I'm really pushing like daily, no questions asked. But for me, it's a 20 minutes session on the app. I do it right after I work out. First thing I do every morning is work out. Second thing I do is meditate. And it's a self-guided meditation. And meditation at its core is about focusing on the breath, breathing in, breathing out, being present. So for me, it is about focusing on the breath and trying to get really in the moment. But also what meditation has provided me is it's a moment in the beginning of the day to get out all the bullshit. And just, the best analogy I can think of, and credit to Headspace, because this is where it comes from, is you essentially want to be on the side of a road, of a highway, and you want to see the cars going both ways. And each car, truck, whatever, represents a thought, an emotion. You're purely just the observer. You're not attaching yourself to either of those, like I was talking about earlier. And so for me, that's what it's about. In the morning when I wake up, after I work out, I sit down. Some days I'm really pumped up. Like I knew today, I'm recording a solo podcast. I got a podcast with Cam. I got a dinner later tonight. I'm just observing, like, how do I feel about today? Like, what's the intent? Like, I want to deliver a great solo pod. I want to give Cam the best possible podcast that I can deliver. I want to be present in the dinner tonight. Okay, cool. That's what today's looking like. And then maybe tomorrow when I wake up, and, today was a holiday for the company I work for, Liquid IV. Tomorrow when I wake up, maybe I'm going to be thinking about, all the things I need to catch up on now that there was a holiday and all the emails. Okay, so today we got a bunch we have to, it's almost like mentally prepping myself for what's in front of me that day. That's what it's come down to. And
kind of taking inventory of the day.
Taking inventory, keeping my self like really low key, not trying to get my heart rate jacked up, like getting anxious thinking about it. So to me, it's been a 20-minute session. Sometimes I'll do it at night. But it just sets such great intention for the day and allows me to be extremely focused with this. Like, do not disturb on my phone. There's nothing else that I'm thinking about right now than this podcast with you. And as soon as this ends, I'll move on to the next thing I need to do, and I'll stay present there and on to the next. And so instead of getting worked up thinking about all the things that I need to do tomorrow and so on and so forth, I'm just like, how do I stay focused on this moment? And it's purely just a product of meditation. And yeah, absolute game changer. I'd push anybody to listen to this. Like, you don't have to download the app. You don't have to do anything. Just put your phone on do not disturb for 10 minutes, put a timer on, close your eyes, and just follow your breath and see how much that changes your outlook on your life, your day over the course of a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months. Game changer. It's the hack. It is the hack, and the single thing that I guarantee almost every successful person that you look up to, or anybody that's listening, I guarantee you, if you ask 10 of them if they meditate, I would bet 80% do. It's a single hack. It is a single hack.
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer that spirituality, whether it's in the form of religion, kind of mindful spirituality, meditating, is the absolute common denominator between all successful people, period. Totally. And if you have a skeptical point of view on that, then you've already lost the battle a little bit. And I'm not one of these people that's just trying to be like too OD with it or whatever, but it's just a fact, you know what I'm saying? And I think that it can be easy to be like, oh, like what the fuck is, sitting down and breathing for 10 minutes going to do? And it kind of sounds like it's kind of like stupid or something like that. But, I've had moments where I've been doing it more consistently and then I have moments where I'm not. And so you see the difference in your own life when you're doing that versus when you're not doing it. But yeah, I how did you get into it? Did you just stumble across it and just start meditating?
It was literally in 2016 when I started listening to podcasts and started watching interviews and was trying to figure out what I was going to do after college. I started taking note of like, okay, I see a lot of commonalities in these successful people. They work hard. They believe in themselves. They stick to the vision. They're extremely patient. They're resourceful. I see all these things that it's common traits in them. Yes, a lot of them focus on physical fitness. They read a lot, but they do this thing called meditation. Like, I know what meditation is. Like, you sit with your legs crossed, you hum, you breathe. Like, how is that helping these guys? And so I kept hearing it and seeing it in interviews. I'm like, okay, at some point, it just was like, you got to see what this is all about. You know what I'm saying? So I had, at the time, I was listening to a podcast called The School of Greatness with Lewis Howes. And one of his sponsors was Headspace. And he also, around that same time, he had the founder of Headspace, or co-founder, Andy Puddicombe, I think his name is. was on the show. And so I listened to the podcast and I was like, I got to try this. And so it was purely just like hearing a lot of successful, doing it. And then just being piqued by it and wanting to give it a try. But I do hear you though. Cause it's like, I'm not here posting on my story like, hey guys, I'm about to go get Zen for 20 minutes. Blah, like,
well, that's the even like talking about it makes me feel like kind of like a douchebag. But you should not. No, I know, and I'm just fucking around. But that's the true meaning of being mindful is to really like have that interaction with yourself and be present and not have to tell people about it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of telling people about that type of stuff out in the world these days with Instagram and stuff like that. And that's the opposite of what being mindful means. Yeah. Like the ultimate spirituality is to have it within you and not need to prove to people that you have that spirituality. But I am 100% in agreement with everything that you're saying and just the power of spirituality, mindfulness, meditating, all of that stuff, because I think what it does is it unlocks a part of your brain where you have faith without, reason necessarily to have that faith. And I think when you're just living on the surface level, you need an answer to everything. You need to know why something can happen. And when you have faith and when you're spiritual, and again, whether it's through religion or meditating or any way that you connect with the universe in some spiritual way, I'm a real strong believer in this, you stop needing to know the answer and just you start to accept that you can achieve things can happen in your life and you know it inside you. And then those things start to actually happen in your life because it's a perspective shift, and all of a sudden you're acting different because you feel different, and then your actions lead to better results. And so when you have a negative outlook, negative things keep happening. And when you need to know, why could I be someone that could be this successful because, I don't have the right schooling background or, blah, 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 then it's only going to lead to, negative results if that's where your headspace is. But if you actually have faith without needing to know why you have faith that something is going to work out, it's more likely to work out because your actual day-to-day actions are changed by your positive outlook. So then more positive things start to happen in your life and, you end up becoming a more accomplished person. Yeah. And so when people talk about the law of attraction and debate whether or not it's valid or not, they're missing the point. Whether or not there's actually some universal force and energy dictating these things, we're never going to know, one. So there's no reason to debate it. And two, it's irrelevant because if you do act in a way where you believe in the idea of attracting things to your life, you are changing your behavior to lead to more positive results regardless. So, it is something that I think we miss when we talk about that type of stuff. Yeah. Is that like just changing the outlook does make meaningful changes on the day-to-day decisions and random shit that you do. Yeah.
And to echo what you said earlier, because I completely agree. And it's been something that I have had to figure out for myself as I stepped into this whole self-development world, which is, it's an interesting world to step into because I genuinely want to help people. But I do come across a lot of people where I'm just like, you're so full of shit and I can smell it from here through my phone, right? And so a lot of times, especially when it comes to this meditation type conversation or self-development or whatever it might be, it all comes down to how people communicate it. And I feel very fortunate. I think you're very much the same. I'm a people's person at my heart and at my core. So I know when something's authentic and when something's just not. And so absolutely. I think a lot of times, whether it is this conversation around meditation or it's about what somebody's going through and having empathy that maybe you've never been there, but you can feel for them. I just think what it comes down to at the end of the day is how people communicate themselves to the world or their thoughts. You know, are you open-minded, or is it your way or the highway? I just think that's really important because, like I said, it's taken me quite a bit of time, and it was very hard even when I was getting to this whole self-development world of like trying to share my voice and post content and show people like what I'm going through. And, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of people like, oh, who does Bob think he is, like some life coach? And I was like, no, I'm not trying to be a life coach. I'm trying to be exactly what I said at the top of this podcast is I'm just trying to document my day-to-day life, show people the experiences that I'm going through, tell them the lessons I'm learning. And if you want to take it and run with it, great. If you don't, that's not a problem. But I've just seen how much value I've learned in my life by listening and watching other people from afar and taking note and putting that experience in my back pocket to use in the future. And I go, if I can do the same for other people, that's pretty awesome.
Well, there's just a huge difference between showing people the tools and the things that you enjoy that help you, and, you know, motivating people through documentation and through bringing people along the journey, the ups and the downs, which you do a great job of being authentic. And so there's a huge difference between that and people trying to create a persona that's not authentic to them to monetize and create a brand, or at its core, really just make them feel better about themselves in a weird kind of positive reinforcement, instant gratification kind of way. And I think we get addicted to that on social media sometimes. And I mean, the world needs people to create content. Like, I don't think there's anything bad about being a content creator and putting out content. I think that, you know, whatever it's about, mindfulness, you know, anything. The only point there was I read in this book about mindful. Actually, it's kind of ironic because the whole point of the thing in the book was like, I'm going to tell you this and you don't need to tell other people about it. And that's the whole point. But now I'm telling the fucking story. So
I love that.
But that was just what was interesting. And at the end of the day, like, I just like having interesting conversations like this. And that's the whole point of doing this, is just this stuff is fun to talk about, and it's interesting. And I really enjoy listening to conversations like this because it gives me a little bit of a framework to, you know, do things in my life. And it's super, great to have access to all these different types of people and their podcasts and get a sense of how they think and what, you know, motivates them. And that type of content is like the most valuable thing in the world, you know, and there's a lot of stuff out there that is posted for the wrong reasons. And I think it's very easy to tell what's what. And so, you know, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah,
it's all short. It's all short term versus long term at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I see content that, you know, I love, like the content where it gives me a laugh, where people like are running into a grocery store, they throw up 10 gallons of milk and it breaks everywhere. And that's what their channel's all about, is doing like random shit. Right.
Right.
But it's like, you have to, for me, I go, do I want to be known as that person 10 years from now? How am I going to build the brand? Like, do I want to keep doing that? So to me, it's just about short-term, long-term, being self-aware of who you are, what you value, what you want to represent in this world. There is no wrong or right way. There's no wrong or right way to run a podcast. So at the end of the day, it's just about, truthfully, you just got to do the things you really want to do, which you already do. You've been doing this for too long, whether it's music, now getting to podcasts, building businesses. Like, there's no other option at this point for you, because this is just what you know. And once you get a taste of like, wow, it feels great that I can stick to this path that I want to create of my own blueprint of the world. And nobody can tell me what I can and can't do. Like to me, that's pretty, and a pretty amazing life to live, if you can wake up every day and be in control of your time and, you know, financially pay for the things that you need and live within reason and come as you go. Like, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure it out. But those that really do figure it out, I think just they just do what makes them happy, which sounds so easy, but it does take a little bit of time to get there.
How have you been adjusting to this new routine? I know it's been a year of doing this shit, but what's your pivot that you've done? I know you've gotten back into the podcasting, but just even more from a personal standpoint, health, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Where are you at on that stuff? I mean, I look up to a lot of the stuff that you do health wise, and I'm just curious kind of where your head's been at in terms of all that stuff.
I was definitely a big gym person. Like I had always been going to the gym first thing every morning up until the pandemic. And so that was quite a bit of a shift. But fortunately, just like we said before, like I very quickly, like within 10 days when everything started to shut down, not even within 10 days, probably within 4 or 5, I was just like, okay, this is the situation. How are you going to lean into this? Okay, cool. Can't go to the gym. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start doing workout videos, started finding stuff on YouTube, started getting into running. And then it's just similarly with everything else. I was just like, how do I readjust my schedule? How do I adjust my routine? So I feel fortunate because I'm all about like the first out, to me, I live by this philosophy. You win the morning, you win the day. It's not about what time you wake up. To me, it's about what do you spend the first hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of your day doing? And so for me, the first 2.5, 3 hours of my day is all about me. And that carries me through the rest of the day to execute on everything else. So it's like I wake up, I work out, I meditate, I have breakfast, I journal, I read. And then by the time it catches up, it's already like it's been 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I also don't check social media for the first 2.5, 3 hours of my day. I'll post like a story of like me running or a lot of like the documenting the journey type stuff, but I don't check like my feed.
You're not consuming. You're just
posting. Post, get out. And so now I'm like dialed in on my routine where Monday through Friday, it's the same thing. It's like, the morning routine, 9 o'clock hits. I'm working Liquid IV till 6 p.m. that day. All my podcast, personal projects or whatever it might be from 6 to like 9, tucked into bed, passed out by 10 o'clock, up at 6 every day. And it's just like this continuous rhythm. So it's Monday through Friday. That's what it is. And then on the weekends, I don't put an alarm clock. I just assess what do I need to get done. Some weekends are more busier than others. And other than that, just once again, it's all about that being present. And sometimes too, just being aware of like, how do I feel today? Am I in the mood to edit this podcast right now? Or should I do it tomorrow? Because I feel dead. Like I feel like today was a long day. Let me, reassess the routine. So I keep a lot of flexibility in my evenings so that I can make sure that I can execute on podcasts and anything related to this role. That's just definitely a big bucket of mine that I'm really focused on outside of Liquid IV. And so, I feel like I've been fortunate to figure out what that routine looks like. And it really was just, first couple of weeks after the pandemic hit, it's like, this is the reality. Me complaining about it's not going to change anything. How do we switch it up? How do we make it work with what's happening right now?
Yeah, that's why I love coffee so much, because it gives me that ability to actually do stuff in the morning. The morning is when you're the smartest, I feel like. Mm-hmm. I mean, my thoughts are just
flowing.
9 a.m., 10 a.m., no food, just coffee, just kind of feeling like a crackhead, but in a good way. And just,
I love that.
Just feeling super in the mood to execute on stuff.
Yeah.
Is your sleep schedule pretty consistent in terms of going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day?
Yeah. Yep. It helps me. I try to, during the weekday, I try to be like in bed by like 9, and then I'll watch something on Netflix, and that's my way of like slowing down the day, especially like hustling, grinding, getting all this shit done. I'll watch something that's like Schitt's Creek or something that's gonna like kind of like be easy to watch and not make me like be intense watching it. And so, it's this like literally like 9 p.m. I'll try to get into bed. Sometimes I pass out by 9:30. Sometimes it's not till 10, but 6 a.m. alarm every single day during the week is always the time I get up. Why I know routines can feel boring and people can get sick of it. But for me, what it's done in general is I know where I'm supposed to be and I know when. There's no question of when should I work out today. There's no question of when should I record the podcast. There's no question of when should I read or journal. It's imprinted in my mind and on this certain time of every day. So that habit then becomes a ritual. It's so part of me that I feel lost if I don't do it. And so, it's just so crucial to me. And I think it's just about really too, because I love what you said earlier. It's like you wake up, you have coffee before you even eat, you're, getting some shit done or, getting your thoughts on a paper. At the end of the day, it's about being self-aware of what works best for you. Some people like the night workout. Some people, like waking up and getting right into their emails. I've tried so many routines in the last 4 years where I used to do that. I'd wake up at 6, start working by 6:05. I just realized it wasn't made for me. It wasn't good for me. So that's the other thing too. It's like, you got to test and try a bunch of routines to see what works and what doesn't. But based on the routines that I have found, I get up at 6, 8:30 a.m. I'm fired up. Got coffee in hand and I'm ready. I am ready for the whole day ahead of me. And I'm like so sharp, so like motivated, so inspired. That's where I get the energy from, because that morning routine builds the momentum and it carries me for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I love the mornings. The mornings are absolutely the most productive and just exciting time, dude.
Quality time versus quantity. That's what the morning provides.
Yeah. No, and you're right. It's all about what you need in terms of your own routine and when you work best or whatever. And some people might do that at night, and it depends on what you're working on too. If you're a creative and you're in the studio, I like making music at night, but I like waking up in the morning and doing some other shit.
Yeah.
But routines create discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with routines is the routine isn't a bad thing. But when someone else dictates your routine, that's where I feel like routines get a bad rep, because nobody wants to do something on other people's terms.
Mm.
But if you build your own routine, that can be really positive and advantageous overall, because we thrive in routines as humans. But it's about setting your own routine and making yourself feel good about that routine. And if you're not doing that, then you're kind of just wasting time in some ways. If you don't have a little bit of a structure, routine, like we all do need a little bit of structure. I'm the biggest proponent of doing what you want in life and having fun. But as I've gotten more and more busy with different things I'm doing, having a balance, doing this and the music and everything else, the more you realize how important that basic structure of a routine is every single day. And even just the simple fact of trying to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time and have that consistency, because it does create discipline. Mm-hmm. And so that type of routine I feel like is super key. But routines, I feel like we all think of it in the sense of like, routines are like when we had to go to school and it wasn't something that was up to us. We had to go at 7:30 and go leave at 2:30 and do this thing every single day. And that, or if you have to go to work at a certain time every single day. But yeah, I feel like routines just lead to the discipline if it's your own self-imposed routine.
Yeah.
My routine is just getting up, going and getting a coffee or making a coffee, and then taking phone calls, and then immediately sitting down and doing whatever work I need to do on my computer that morning, whether it's mixing a new song or editing the podcast or, whatever other type of work I got to do with some of my investments that I have or whatever. That's when I'm just laser focused, and I don't eat until like 1 typically, because I feel more mentally focused if I'm kind of just fresh out of waking up, no food, because food just slows you down, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I think too that when it comes to like dieting too, that's a whole nother component that I could spend hours talking on. That's something that I think is really crucial that people don't even think about, is like, you're not going to put a gallon of water into your car because you know that it's not going to drive. And if you take that same mindset and you think about the foods that you consume, it's the exact same thing with how you feel about yourself. The reason I have so much energy is because I'm very aware of what I consume. Like I said, for breakfast, I'm not having 10 eggs, bacon, sausage, toast. I'm having the same breakfast every day: yogurt, bananas and blueberries, and a protein shake. It's light. It's good enough to get some proteins in my body, get me fueled up for the day, but it's not heavy where I'm going to feel like sit down at work and be like tired and feel like the food is like just like putting me into a food coma. So I think that's
digest it. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So I think that's just another thing, is like being aware of like what you consume is exactly how you're going to feel. And if you want high energy and you want to feel alive, eat foods that make you feel alive, that are alive, you know, vegetables. And if you are okay with eating meat, I know it's a very big topic, especially in LA, whether you eat it or not, just be aware of what you're consuming, because I guarantee you it's going to shift the way you feel on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, the biggest thing, I'm definitely really interested in food, and have done a lot of different trial and error things with, I mean, I tried to do the vegan thing for a little bit. I tried to do eating more protein. I tried to, you know, not eat red meat. I've done everything over the years, ever since I was like 18, just different things, and gone through different periods of being more on top of it, less on top of it, whether or not I'm working out at the time, lifting or whatever. And my appetite, like I don't have a crazy appetite unless I'm working out. And that's why, like, I've always been like relatively skinny. Like, I'm not trying to eat a ton of food all the time. Like, my body doesn't want to eat a ton of food all the time, unless I'm burning a lot of calories. Then it does start to feel like that. And yeah, I feel like it's just this big trial and error type of situation, because when I was not eating meat, I was just like, I was feeling good in terms of my body didn't feel kind of sluggish, and it did feel like I was putting really good fuel into my body. But it's so hard to do that at a, you know, consistent level and get all the nutrients that you need to feel good long term, that it's like a full-time job. If you want to not eat meat and not eat cheese, it's a full-time job to feel good with the food that you're eating. Otherwise, you just start eating shit that's not meat, but it's not necessarily super healthy either, but it's a way to get in the calories, you know, and then that's always been my struggle with it, is like, if I had all the time in the world to just focus on making the best meals, then I could probably be vegan. But, you know, if you need to get in 2,000 calories or, you know, 2,500 calories in a day, meat is a very efficient way to do that. Mm-hmm. And so it's a really interesting thing. And I think that there's just so much polarization on all that stuff. I think it goes back to just whether or not you're just healthy in general.
Yeah.
You know, and if you overconsume, obviously when you're overconsuming meat, it's a really bad thing. But overconsuming anything is a really bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, the tough thing about dieting that I've always realized is what works for somebody might not necessarily work for you. Yeah. All of our bodies are completely different. I mean, the greatest examples are allergies. Some people can eat peanuts, some people can't. And that's just a very small example, but imagine the way me eating Greek yogurt might affect you differently, or me eating meat can affect you differently. So I think that's the other thing too, is you kind of have to test and try diets or foods to see how does your body react. And then base like, do I like eating this food, or do I not want to eat this food, or should I try a different diet? So that then becomes a game of like testing and trying, once again, trying to see what works for you. What do you enjoy? What works within your budget? Because if I wanted to go to Erewhon and do all my grocery shopping, it would cost me $300 a month, or excuse me, $300 a week.
A trip. Yeah.
And I know it's organic and I know it's better for my body, but financially it's like, that doesn't work. So there's a lot of different variables that people have to consider. But I just think at a very high level, being aware of what you're consuming is going to change so much of how you feel on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I like the Michael Pollan thing, which is you can eat whatever you want as long as you cook it.
That's good.
Because if you want to eat a fucking apple pie and you're working on it for 3 hours, then eat the fucking apple pie. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
But I think what's problematic in our world, in America, is that we can go anywhere and get just the abundance of food and highly caloric and horrible food is just everywhere, and it's cheap, super cheap. So of course we're all gonna like overconsume, but we wouldn't do that if we had to make it ourselves. And so you can eat whatever you want,
as long
donuts,
as you're making it.
You want a donut, then make it.
Yeah,
you know, like, and I mean from scratch, you know. So that's my newest thing. I've been on my cooking with Cam shit on Instagram, and I'm just trying to, if I want to eat something good like chicken parm or pizza or whatever, then I'm going to cook it from scratch. And you feel good doing that, even if it's got stuff that, doesn't necessarily, isn't necessarily considered healthy. You still feel cleaner and better doing it if it's, if it's something you made with your own hands,
And I'm imagining too, you're appreciating it too because you built it yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a mental thing and a physical thing because there's less processed stuff just by nature of you making it yourself, and that's good physically. And mentally, you feel better about it because you were along the road for the whole entire process. And I think that food and how we digest food is probably a mental thing just as much as a physical thing as well. And I think that our chemistry in our body is certainly affected by how we're feeling about it too. So that's been my newest thing with food. But like I said, I try a lot of different things with food. It's just kind of an interesting thing to me. Got to bring somebody on who knows what they're talking about.
I was gonna say you got to get a chef on here soon enough, baby.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the other thing about going vegan is like I just like to cook too, so it's just not realistic.
Yeah,
I was vegan for like 2 months, and I like to cook chicken, and I like to cook meat, and I just like to cook anything. And pretty much every recipe that's a legitimate restaurant recipe or real chef's recipe is not a vegan recipe. So that's my trouble with it as well. And no shade to anybody who's doing that. Like I said, I would be almost vegan all the time if I either had a personal chef or I had all the time in the world to just focus on that.
Yeah.
But I don't. There's only so much time in the day.
Yeah. Not made for me either, baby. But I respect it. If anybody that is on that vegan wave.
Right. But I think it's just it is just about how much you're consuming at the end of the day. I really think. I mean, I think getting to the point where you're overweight because you're over consuming. Of course, we can blame meat or whatever it might be, and I think there's absolutely some correlation between meat and particularly red meat and processed meat being carcinogenic and causing cancer. But you can't deny that we can eat meat as human beings too. I think that we probably eat more meat than we need to, most of us, and that might be part of the issue. But the biggest issue is people who are over-consuming to such an excessive level that they're having, severe health problems because of that. And that's a huge problem, and it's a socioeconomic problem. It's a mentality problem. It's a thing that's not those people's fault. It's the systemic situation in our country that's led to that. Problem.
Yeah.
But I think it's unfair to the issue as a whole to say that it's just meat that's the problem, and that everyone being vegan would solve that issue, because it's not realistic, first of all, and it's not fair to the complexities of the situation, and it's also not fair to the science of the fact that our bodies can consume meat at a reasonable level, and in a lot of ways it's good for us. And cholesterol, while it can be a bad thing, is also a good thing too, and it's a balance.
Yeah. It's like I think about people that are in positions where they don't have much money, and how are you going to expect them to go to a Ralph's and buy a full meal? They don't even have time to cook that meal, or maybe they don't even have propane to grill the meat or to cook the food. So then it is like what you have to work with is where is all you have to spend, or you're gonna go to McDonald's, you're gonna go to the Burger King, you're gonna go to anywhere that's gonna help you feel filled. So I definitely think that is such a bigger issue that I wouldn't even know how to tackle. And obviously there's just so many ways you could go about it, but I can't even imagine, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. I totally hear you. And I think when you're in a position where you don't have a lot of money and you can get, for $15, you can feed 4 people at a fast food restaurant.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, no, why wouldn't you?
And I think that the that's the whole point. This is that those systemic factors of food being, driven by our capitalist environment for the last 50 years, and food companies getting to a point where, they value their profits and nothing else. It's inevitable that we're going to get to this position. And I'm a big proponent of capitalism and letting companies operate in the way that they see fit to an extent. But I think when you talk about food, it's a public health issue as well as a regular economic, kind of thing that we're interacting with in our environment. So there needs to be consideration there, I think. And I think companies that operate within that space need to be held accountable at a different level than the average company that maybe can have more flexibility in how it runs its business. But we never had that in this country, and so here we are. And on top of that, we had, an even worse situation where those companies have been able to lobby government for the last, decades, to create. I mean, it's really interesting when you actually look into it. Like the sugar companies and the meat companies are the ones who have lobbied the FDA to create the food maps that we use to determine how much protein should be on a plate and how much, and all those things are completely arbitrary things that aren't based in science. They're based in lobbying and people paying money to influence government to say certain things that are going to help those different markets. Sugar, corn. I mean, it's really complex. And so to start to unravel that is a huge, huge task that is absolutely not doable by everyone just becoming vegan and paying, $25 for something organic versus something non-organic.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the solution, unfortunately. If you're in a position to do that, it's a really privileged position to be in. But that doesn't go very far to solving the problem, obviously. But my man Bob A, dude, this was a great conversation, man. I had a lot of fun talking to you.